Damn, son, where'd you find this?
D-Day Rock Star. Yeah, exactly. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Damn, son, where'd you find this? Oh, man. We're back, man. Episode 2 with my guy, Bllaine.
What we doing? We're in
Had
the
you a couple
building.
months ago. It was too good. Had to bring you back.
Hey, you can never have too much of a good thing, even though they say you can. If you know what I'm saying.
You know. But yeah, no, I'm excited to have you on because I wanted to do kind of a special episode. First of all, I want to bring you back a lot, you know, as a recurring guest because, you know, you're my boy. And I wanted to do a special podcast episode before I got too deep into it where I could do a little Q&A with people and have people send in questions. So I sent out a text to this texting thing that I have with all these people who follow me through text and tweeted out some stuff. And so I got a bunch of questions we can go through later. And I feel like it'll be good because you and I just have so many stories over the last 7 years of being on the road and doing different crazy shit.
Yeah.
So I figured it was the perfect move.
I'm here for it. I'll definitely chime in with a fact or fiction, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So,
What's been up though before we get there?
dude, you know, they opened up California a little bit, so that's kind of good, you know. I've been obviously on the last episode, if you watched it, I've been dadding hard, but we've made it a point to get out in the world and kind of do a little self-care thing. So I've been golfing like a madman
I love that.
on the links. I've been trying to up my game. I'm not the greatest, but I feel like I can get there. You know, I have streaks of greatness.
Yeah, golf's one of those things where you just gotta play and just work it out and then get lessons, but really just getting out on the course because it's
Right.
the 10,000 hour thing. Like you can't jump ahead in golf. Although I think if you're more coordinated than others, you get a good head start. Like I played golf with a
Right.
bunch of guys who are like NBA players and shit, and like these dudes haven't played. Like I've gone out with Carl a bunch and he'll bring some other player and, you know, he might not have ever played golf before, but is hitting it 300 yards and straight just because when you're an NBA player, you're so coordinated,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that you can just pick up anything. Your hand-eye coordination is just so crazy.
Would think sometimes that wouldn't be the case with NBA players because they're so like tall and there's like a lot of body to work with.
Right.
And like to put it all together. But yeah, like someone like Carl, the way he fucking drives the ball is pretty amazing to see, being fucking 7 foot tall and
yeah.
just crush.
No, it's insane because if you think about the physics of a swing, right? If you're 7 feet tall versus someone who's like 5'11",
Right.
the radius, you know, or just kind of the distance that the club is going from the top point of the swing all the way down to the bottom, it's a much longer distance. Each inch you go higher in height.
Yeah.
And so the power that you're getting when you're that much taller, it's not just like a linear increase of power. It's like an exponential increase of power.
Yeah, you're definitely driving the ball a lot farther, especially if you're coordinated like he is. Like
Right.
he's an athlete. The guy can swing a baseball bat. He can swing a golf club better than a lot of people I've seen. And it's like sometimes you're like, some guys you'd be like you see Charles Barkley swing a golf club. Maybe that's why it's like that's the stigma sometimes.
Right.
But then again, there's like Steph's fucking amazing golfer.
But I mean, Jordan was a big golfer too, right?
Yeah, Jordan still is a big golfer. He golfs all the time.
Aren't there those stories of Jordan on the golf course just betting like $50,000 a hole type shit, just crazy degenerate gambling on the golf course?
I would love to just get around him with Jordan one time, just smoking the top nut cigars.
Oh my God.
Oh man. Yeah, so I've been golfing a little bit. I've been running. I've been doing this thing called 5 at 5. So I wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning and I run 5 miles.
Is that
Basically
a Bllaine trademark, or is that something that you picked up from somewhere, or you just figured that out? 'Cause that's a hot thing that people might want to try, the 5 at 5.
5 at 5. If you want to hop on it, you're more than welcome to. And that is 100% Bllaine trademark. But I will not give the credit. I will not let the credit go past me and give the credit where it's due. David Goggins, man. I read this book, Can't Hurt Me, or You Can't Hurt Me, by David Goggins, and he's an ex-Navy SEAL, just like the most mentally strong, amazing, like motivational. This guy, I mean, he's like, I don't want to like motivate you. I'm not here to do that, but like this is my story, and if it helps you, it helps you. The guy just taps into this different side of your brain. Like, like everybody says, use 40% of your brain, right? His whole philosophy is like, you could push past that 40% that we all use basically, as 99% of the world use this 40% of your brain. But there's that other, other percentage that you're not tapping into. And he's like, if you use 100%, you'll die, right? Like that's completely pushing yourself to the limit of death. So he's saying you could use the other 40, which is 80, right? So you could use this other 40. So you put yourself to 80%. Is like, and that's what happens with this 5 at 5 thing with me. Is like when I'm running, the first time when I started running, I got like a mile in and I wanted to quit and I wanted to die. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Were you just
Like,
going
I'm
in
like,
blind? Like you weren't really training before that? You just went and tried to just run it and just say, fuck it, let me try it and see how far I can get?
so like when I was playing college baseball and like being an athlete, right? I used to run like crazy, but since going on tour and especially becoming a dad, like I lost touch with like being conditioned like I was at one point in my life, right?
Yep.
And like that's kind of like this the whole David Goggins mentality. I look myself in the mirror, I was like, bro, you're being a little bitch, basically. I'm like, you have done this and you can do this, but I'm making excuses in my head, like, oh, this is why I'm not doing this. Oh, maybe I got something to do later. I don't want to be tired. Like, no, I'm making these excuses in my brain to make me not go out there and do something to be physically challenging for myself. And so when I thought about it, I'm the type of person, I think you understand me more than a lot of people. When I do something, I do it 100%, like full fledged, like
Right.
psychopath kind of, like it's
That's
like
very
all
true.
or nothing.
Yeah.
So in my brain, I was like, I'm gonna do 5 miles, and I'm not only gonna do 5 miles, I'm gonna do it at 5 a.m. So I'm getting that mental. Basically, I'm doing it for my mentality, not for like what my body wants to look like, right? I want to physically challenge my brain to wake up at 5, put my feet on the floor, which is already hard enough for anybody to do, right? Sometimes you're like, oh, I just want to stay in. It's super warm. Oh, it's cozy. No, put my feet on the floor, get up at 5, strap my shoes on, and then hit the block and start running and run 5 miles. And I started out, I'd run like 1 mile. Like the first time I ran 1 mile, I felt like I was going to die, but I pushed my brain to do it. And then I would like walk, I'd walk like a half mile and then run a quarter mile, walk, a quarter mile, run a half mile until I got to 5 miles. And then I started to, then the next, I went out, I did like a mile and a half, 2 miles, and therefore, and then after that, I just kept going. And then I ended up, now I'm just pushing 5 miles nonstop, doing about an hour, not like the craziest, fastest time, but it's definitely a steady pace.
So is there a point where you really feel like you're going to give up, but then you push past that? What does that feel like when you push past it?
Mile 3 right now. So I have this route that I'm running now. So I hop out my neighborhood and I go down this like one of its main roads, and it goes all the way down, and I bust a left, and then I come back around. So it's basically a big like block, like a big square or rectangle that I'm doing. And I get back like adjacent with my house, but a couple streets down, right?
Right.
And I know my house is right there, and I'm like, I can cut back up and be like, okay, I'm done, But then once I get to that point of like mile 3, and I feel like shit, that's when in my brain I'm like, all right, let's get to this next stoplight, let's get to this next tree, and then once you get to start doing that, and you start keep going, and then like a new song will pop on it, or I listen to books, so I listen to You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I listened to that twice while I was running. Done with that.
I feel like listening to that book is just really motivational while you're working out.
He's like, like don't be soft. Basically, like, don't like talking about mental toughness. And then I got this. There's another one that was recommended to me through listening to that, and it's called Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
And and he's just super, like, when you hear him talk, like his story. So I'm getting lost in these books now while I'm running, and it's making, like, it's taking that mental, like, oh, I'm not worried about running, like I'm enjoying this book, I'm enjoying this book while I'm running. And like they're both motivational and talking about, like, furthering your life and like different mental thought processes and becoming successful and all these things. And it makes me feel like, all right, like I can do this. And I'm doing it before most of the people on the West Coast are up. There's not many cars on the road when I first go out. You know what I'm saying? So like that's kind of this, like, this motivational thing in my mind and my body when I'm out there. I'm like, I'm getting to it before the world is awake.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, dude. Working out in the morning like that, which I don't do, but I like to get up early and do work in the morning, because you get those 2 or 3 hours before anyone's bothering you.
Right.
So you were saying, like, oh, there's this excuse, I got to do this today, or, I got to deal with the kids or whatever type of shit you have going on in the day to day. But if you're up at 5, you have that me time.
Right. And I think that's like 100% of why maybe I chose unconsciously to do it at 5. And
well, it's the only time you can, right? Like, right. Realistically.
Yeah, because when I get back, I probably have 30 minutes to myself, and then Jackson or Kanan's waking up, maybe an hour sometimes if I'm lucky. But they're usually waking up spot on at like 7, 8,
Yeah, you got to find that balance between getting enough sleep to be rested, but also getting up early enough to have that time.
Right.
Because the reality is that, like, there's only 24 hours in a day. You got to sleep for some portion of that.
Exactly.
Right. But how can you use those other hours?
Dude, there's sometimes when I'm just like, why have I decided to do this? But then that's when I just remind myself, like the David Goggins thing. It's just like, do it, get it done. And every time, once I get past mile 1, I'm super happy that I'm doing it,
Well, like, what good happens after 8 p.m. unless you're doing something socially, like hanging out with your family or hanging out with friends?
Right.
From a productivity standpoint, nothing happens after 8 p.m.
Right.
And so when we flip the script a little bit and say, all right, well, let me get a couple more hours on the morning side, what happens from 5 to 7? So much can happen. You do anything.
Right.
You can work out, you do work, you have your clear head.
Right.
You can write, you do whatever.
And I think that's like the main, like, amazing part about it is, like, once you get back, you're like, I'm ready to just like take on the day, because I pushed my mental and my physical body to like the brink of like what it is capable of at that time for me. As of right now, I'm hoping to push past 5 miles, but like that was just my starting point. Like, get 5 miles in,
Yeah, I feel like if you're doing 5 miles a day consistently, eventually you'll be able to say, all right, well, let me rock, 7.
Right, exactly. But it's like doing that in the morning when I come back, my brain's super clear. Like, I'm ready to like just work and do everything that I got to do for the day. And even like being with the kids, and like you have such a more positive mindset. And it's like, you kind of got, exactly like you're saying, that me time that I need to like be like a healthy, happy, functioning human being. Because like this whole situation with the COVID and being stuck in the house is like, it gives me that time. Like, I don't need to be around anybody when I'm running 5 miles. It's just me. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, now more than ever, we need something like that to just have some time period to focus, Yeah.
So that's been a great thing for me in the recent, like, 2, I think I've been doing it like 2.5, 3 weeks. So
yeah, well, you look good, man. I mean, that's that's a long way to run,
right,
in a day.
That's the benefit of it. I'm like, all
right,
are your
knees getting fucked up or anything like that?
What?
Are your knees getting fucked up or anything?
You know what? It's crazy when you run long distance. In a lot of long distance runners, they'll tell you, if you watch this and whatever, you listen to books about people that run long distance,
right?
Because that's the thing, again, going back to David Goggins, the guy runs like 100-mile races, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mega marathons or whatever they're called. But your feet go numb. My feet will go numb at some points, and I'm like banging my heel on the ground, like as I'm running. I'm like trying to get like, but my knees I had like bad knees, but I think it's because I put on some weight. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, my body's like, oh, what are you carrying around? You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
But now that I'm like doing all these miles and running and, which is focusing me on eating better and like doing all these things, like I feel better. I feel lighter. My knees really haven't been bugging me, which is great. But my feet, I had to go cop some new Nike running shoes. I had to go get the goods to like protect my feet because they were getting numb and like I couldn't feel my toes. And there's like a certain technique. Me and my buddy were talking about it when you watch long distance running. You like focus like on your shin down. These guys like scoot, right? Like
Okay.
you're
Yeah, yeah. I kind of know what you mean.
you're really used to running. If you're an athlete or you're like a sprinter, a lot of sports is like short burst sprinting. And like those are kind of the sports that I
Right.
played that you played. You're running, you're taking full strides, pushing like off the concrete, exploding, right? While you're running long distance, it's not about like the full explosion. It's about setting a pace and like keeping a steady momentum, and that's going to get your time down. And like they kind of do this like scoot. It's almost like it's so funny when you watch long distance runners now. You'll really know.
It's kind of like the spring off of the
Yeah,
Achilles, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah. And it's almost like
the calf.
yeah, it's almost like heel, like more of like flat footed, like heel to toe, not toe, just toe, 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 toe. Like
Right, right, right.
the toes, but you just kind of
Almost using the natural
right,
flow of the
right,
foot
right.
to propel you forward a little bit.
Exactly.
And they probably use a lot of arms,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Too,
You're just like
to just get the perpetual motion.
exactly, it's like a real constant it's a real constant challenge for me because I'm used to like being a sprinter or like playing football or whatever
Yeah.
whatever I was doing in my childhood. But now I'm like, like I don't need to be the strongest guy in the room. I need to be the healthiest guy. I want to be on my TB12 hype.
Yeah, but the TB12 shit is crazy, dude. I mean, after I watched him win the Super Bowl, I definitely kind of did I'm almost embarrassed to say it because it's almost so cliche, but I definitely did a deep dive into the whole philosophy. And I mean, there's some interesting stuff there. I think there's a lot of truth to being incredibly flexible and the pliability aspect in terms of like, throwing up massive weight is not a good thing. Like it can make you bulky, but it's not good for your body.
No,
All these dudes have back problems and
especially later on in life. You see,
right.
what's his name? Rodney Coleman.
Yeah.
That guy is hurting.
Yeah, all those dudes are fucked up.
Uh,
And obviously a lot of them are on the roids too
right.
but just heavy lift, like if you're going into a gym without stretching and just starting to throw up weight like
Right.
out of nowhere, you're doing some damage to your spine, to your back muscles, your lower back, like everything, every single time that you do that.
And that's like what all my buddies that are like trainers and stuff, they're like, yeah, like great that you're doing these 5 at 5. He's like, but my buddy Paul Wright, Get Right on Instagram, he great trainer. He's one of the trainers inside, the tonal machine.
Oh yeah.
So he's like
He's one of the dudes.
yeah, he's like one of the coaches inside there.
That's cool.
He's like a real big fitness trainer out here in the Bay Area. And he's like, bro, that's great. Like, I'm gonna start getting on my 5 hype, but I'm gonna do it put my spin on it. He's like, but I want you to for sure stretch, dude. He's like, if you're
Yeah.
all that shit, like that shit's gonna be hard on your knees, but you need to stretch. You need to make sure that you're keeping the maintenance on your body. He's like, 5 at 5 is an amazing thing, but like you don't want to hurt yourself by putting that's a lot of running. So
Yeah, that does seem like a lot of running. But I think if you're pushing it from a stretching standpoint and,
right.
thinking about the PT aspect of it, you could probably withstand it to some extent, But I think that's the philosophy that's changing amongst trainers and people who live in that world now. And I think the TB12 shit did probably do a lot of that work, pushing it in that direction. Because people do care a lot more now about everyone's always said stretch, whatever, but we now really understand the science behind why that makes such a difference.
Right.
But I think the whole TB12 thing is a whole other thing too of nutrition and trying to just reduce inflammation as much as possible. I think there's some myths to it, some science to it.
And there's some facts because Tom is the guy. What are we talking about?
100%.
We give Tom his roses right now. The guy just won his 7th Super Bowl.
So whatever he's doing is definitely working.
And that's a,
you know.
he's 40.
So if he's doing it, I feel like that's the whole philosophy. Is if he's doing it, then
And the thing is, with the great thing about
something about it is working.
And you gotta look. Tom Brady gives you that, like, yeah, he's the GOAT, but like he is kind of that average human, you know,
Right.
drafted in the 6th round, like not the most, you know, athletic. He's not the Cam Newton where you're like, you're
Right.
born, you know what I'm saying? You're born looking like a freak, right? He wasn't born like that. He has made himself into the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I mean, the discipline is really the biggest thing. And I think that's the whole thing with everything that he does. The discipline of not eating certain things.
And that's the
living the whole foods, plant-based, 80% vegetables, 20% lean meats, no red meat, nothing inflammatory from a nutrition standpoint, stretching, yoga, bands, not putting up actual weights.
right.
The discipline to stay with all of that stuff. I mean, I've heard like he sets the temperature in his room to like 65 degrees so that he is sleeping at the most optimal temperature for anti-inflammatory purposes.
Someone get Tom on the Cam Meekins show for us. All right.
Oh, seriously.
We need answers, and we just want some more insight because you
got to pay the big bucks to get the answers
right
from Tom. That's the whole business model. But it's a whole approach, right? But I think really what it is, you know, you could do all of those things, but the reason that he's successful is because of the discipline, and all of those things is just a byproduct of his discipline. You know, like he's going to be obsessive because he's obsessive.
Right.
You know, you can set your thermostat to 65 degrees, but you're not going to beat Tom Brady.
Exactly. And that's the whole point of the 5 at 5 and me reading You Can't Hurt Me. It's a mindset. It's not about the body. It's 99% of it to me, or 90% of it is your mental putting yourself in that situation, and then you're going to do these things if you mentally force yourself to do these things, right? You have to mentally be there to even get anything done like that, right? So it's definitely a mental test more than it is like a physical test, because I know my body can run 5 miles. I've done it before, but you know, maybe I tell myself, I look myself in the mirror, like, you mentally have gotten away from what you're capable of doing. So let's get after it, Bllaine. Stop being a punk.
You know, if you were ever like a kid and you were like running from the cops at a house party or doing some shit like that, you can push your body to the craziest limits when you need to under a fight or flight situation.
You know what? The first time I hit the full 5 miles, I came home and I was like, hey, babe, if I had to run from the cops right now, I'm gone. 5 miles? Like, the cops not running after you for 5 miles.
They're not staying for a 10K.
This guy's the fastest kid in the world. What are we talking about? Like, and I'm like, just consistent.
I'm just envisioning you just running down the street. There's just cop cars behind you. You're just training like Rocky. Just.
Oh man, that is too good. That's fun.
Yeah, but you can do a lot. You know. You're right. It is a mental game, but I think those type of things, you know, listening to those guys like David Goggins or reading the TB12 shit, like that's what's so cool about what those guys are doing, putting that stuff out there, is just it can be motivational to the average person to just go another level in their life, and we all need a little bit more of that.
I needed the push, man, because I think about it all the time, like, oh, I want to get up at 5 and run 5 miles. I was telling myself that for so long, and then I read this book, and then I'm like, what am I doing?
What pushed you to actually check out the book? Was there something that led you? Like, did you see a podcast, or were you just like at a point where you were like, so I need something to motivate me here?
I've heard of him through a lot of mutual people, like a lot of my friends. I've read the book or listened to the book, and then I saw him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and then I really kind of listened to that, and I saw like what the guy was about, and then I read the book, and then it came out on tape, right? Once it came on tape, it's like they read the chapter, and then in between each chapter, they will have like a podcast in between, right?
Oh,
He'll
that's
talk
cool.
about like the stories of his life and like these things, and it's the guy who helped him write the book who reads it, and David Goggins in between, and the guy like have a podcast, conversation back and forth about like the situations that like he went through and like the mindset and all these type of different things. So it's like it's just super motivational, and that's kind of what made me read the book. Was just I've had this thought process in my head before I even knew who David Goggins was. It's kind of like what I was when I was playing sports. I was like very like obsessive, like, okay, practice more than anybody, you'll be better than everybody, right? Put the time
Right.
in, you'll get the reward, right? And I always had that thought process, and I was kind of always that way. But like I said, it got away from me, and I was compensating like, oh, if I work more on music, then I'm putting that, that thought process into the music world, right? Like if I'm, making beats or recording and making songs more than anybody, then I'm going to be better than anybody in music,
Right.
which is the same
Right.
mentality. But I'm like, why can't I do it all? Why not just be a healthy human, run, work out, create music, do business ventures, whatever it is. And it kind of just made me like stop making excuses for one thing and getting rid of another thing, you know?
Yeah, I hear that. Yep.
So,
Yep.
and now I'm trying to put my brain power into real estate, man. I'm trying to take over the real estate game one time.
Real estate's where the money's made, man.
This
Most billionaires in the world from real
this
estate.
quarantine thing's really got me like, all right, let's take my life to a different gear,
Well, I think everybody's been on that wavelength. I've talked about this on the podcast. Anyone who's living this life for themselves, not working for a corporation. Because if you're working for a corporation, you get in the whole quarantine situation, you start adjusting to the work from home lifestyle. You're going different places, renting Airbnbs, working the office life. You're still doing the 9 to 5. You're just doing it from
Right.
home. And, if you're lucky enough to have a job like that, then you're good.
Right.
A lot of those people are feeling good. But if you're someone like us who works for themselves and is figuring out how to just make it happen, this has gotten rid of all the distractions.
Right, exactly.
And
there's not that like, it's Friday night. Oh, let's go get fucked up, or let's go hang, like let's go to a club or something like that. Like that is out the window.
Well, and so much of the meetings that you take on a day-to-day basis are really just to like distract yourself socially. It's not something that you actually need to do from a business standpoint. I think that's one of the biggest realizations people are going to have from this whole entire situation. People who work for themselves.
Exactly.
Should we start going through some of these questions in this special Cam Meekins Show podcast?
Yeah, man. Let's
with my guy Bllaine.
Let's fire it off.
Just start telling some stories.
I want to know what the people want to know.
Yeah, there's a lot of good questions. So I use this texting app called Community, and so people can
Where can
text
I text
me.
you at?
You can text me at 617-420-7261. Let me double check that just to be super sure. 617-420. Where the hell is this thing?
Well, we for sure got 617-420.
Yeah, it's definitely 617-420.
Shout out to Boston. Shout out to the big loud.
7261. 617-420-7261. Feel like a radio host. Call in now.
So if you want to ask him, if you want to get the new drops.
Yeah, I do a lot of cool shit on there. I'm trying to figure out the best way to use it, but I've been really using it as a sounding board for ideas and talking to them and just being like, hey, I want to do this with the podcast, or I want to do this with some new music I have coming out. And it's like my core following of people that are the most into what I'm doing. And it's so valuable getting the insight, hearing what they think about an idea and stuff like that. So anyways, I texted that group, asked for questions, tweeted it out, got a ton of good questions. So I'll start going through them. Let's see here. What's your biggest inspiration to make music and why? I feel like you can talk on this too, Bllaine. Um, music is just the ultimate kind of therapy. I feel like it's a expression of your thoughts in a way that, at least for me, I felt like I couldn't get it out in any other medium. I couldn't get it out by talking to people. I couldn't get it out by doing something else. But when I started writing music, I was able to kind of get stuff out there. And it's also this incredible expression of yourself and what your whole kind of vibe is. And so I don't know. I mean, I feel like that
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I would agree, man. It's just it gives you a place kind of to tap into certain places in your brain and thoughts and feelings that you have, and to get them out there and to release them, you know. It's like almost a sort of self-therapy, right? You really get to, I think you feel the same way. You get to just really express. I mean, that's like the point of it, like to express those deep feelings, those lighthearted feelings, those fun feelings. Like there's just no limit to what you can do. And then I think some of the most amazing situations for me for making music that inspires me is just like when you create a song, you create it from silence, you know. It starts, the first thing that happens when you know, plug it, when you go to make a song, there's nothing. And then at the end is like this beautiful song that you created over however many hours, days, whatever. And then you have this whole beautiful thing that you created, and it's just like very rewarding. And it's even more rewarding when you do it about something that, you know, is been on your mind or dear to your heart or whatever it is. It's just kind of, it's very satisfying. It's a satisfying process.
Yeah, it is this kind of,
And it's
this real tangible asset that you create out
there.
of thin
That's
air.
the most amazing thing to me.
And it exists, like you're talking about, like real estate. How about music as an asset? Like it exists out of thin air, and then you just have it out there forever, and people can listen to it. And I always thought that what attracted me to music was the fact that it was this thing that you put out that was with your own voice that lasts longer than you do.
Is like one of the most inspiring and like things that makes you want to do it, because think about the people that have passed. Rest in peace to every artist that has ever been, you know, that has passed on. We still have them, kind of, you know. We still have them. We still get to like, you know, feel like you know them, or, you know, when you're thinking about them, you can put them on. Like it's super sick. And
I think we have a need as humans to figure out how to make life bigger than ourselves. And I think that's why we created art, because we had this drive inside us to make sense of things and also make things more important than ourselves. And art does that because it lasts forever. It lasts longer than the human making it.
And art literally makes, like you're saying, it makes it like bigger than you. It makes it makes it last longer than you. That's a very, very deep question. I think we're going down a rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, you can go as deep as you want to go on it. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, that's, you know, at a high level, what motivates anybody to do music is that, you know, that's what I think, at least. And it's just fun. There's not a lot of things like being in the studio. So if you know that process, it's an incredible fun. It's just an incredibly fun process. How do you handle the pressure of wanting to help out friends and family while still thinking of yourself and your own pockets? Interesting question. I think that, you know, anybody deals with that when you have any level of success, right? And, you know, I think it's important to remember, it's kind of like the airplane safety video. You got to put your mask on before helping others to put their mask on. That is just
a great analogy. I mean,
you know,
that it's crazy because this question really relates to my 2019. I was a
Yeah.
very, I mean, for the longest time, like put the other person's mask on before I put mine on, you know? I was
Right.
always,
Right.
like let's be the team player. Still am, but I made like a pact to myself right before my kids were born. I made this thing to myself, like right when I moved back to the Bay, like I'm gonna do things for me, you know? I'm gonna do what's best for me, and I'm always gonna have like the best intention in my heart, and always still be there for the people that I care about most. And I made that pact to myself, and because I was just like, like who, if you don't, if you're not okay with yourself, you're never gonna be okay with other people or other people that you're trying to help. If you don't love yourself and you're not like happy with what you're doing yourself, then you're never gonna love the people that that you want to help. So you have to help yourself before you help others, and that's something I truly believe in, and I kind of finally grasped that, even though that's like I never had like ill intent of whatever I was doing to help others, because it's like all I wanted to do is see the people win. But I was like I'm gonna be
Right.
home. I'm gonna be back in the Bay. I'm not in LA anymore. What can I do to help Bllaine now? I've done a lot to help others. What can I do to help Bllaine? And I just found like a little more, clarity in like what I wanted to do, which is
Yeah, and there's, on the other side of that too, I think that there's an issue when there's a dynamic of, oh, well, you're doing something, what's in it for me? What's in
right,
it for me, right? And I think that those motivations might indicate that those people aren't really
right,
your friend. Like I think that real friends understand that everybody can win and everybody
right,
can eat together. And if it's just a focus of short term, like, hey, you're doing well right now, can I get a little piece of that? Can I try and, you know, kind of
right,
just ride that
yeah,
situation in the
exactly,
short term? Then you got to think about what the
right,
motivation is
right.
there.
And that's like, I'm like always the type of person that like never like, oh no, this person they have good intent. Everybody has good. Like, what do you mean? They can never do anything like that. Lo and
Right,
behold,
right.
like shit happens like in your life. And you're like, I was being super naive. I was being super naive about like, trying to help people or do these type of things. But then, the cream always rises. The people that are solid and deserve, your time and your love and your help and whatever you want to do to like, better their life, to better your life, and just to be a solid person and be that person that, that cream, the cream that rises to the top, those will stay. They
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, to touch on the question specifically, I think you as an individual, if you're in a position where you have those people around you and you feel like you have that pressure to help people out or take care of people, it's, you got to give the people that you love the most help that you can, but doing it in a way that
Right.
isn't killing
Don't,
you
yeah, don't
either,
take
you
away
know?
from yourself just to help somebody else.
Right, right. And I think that's kind of what you were talking about is like you would put so much effort into trying to help, you know,
Yeah,
people around you that you were working with or doing different things that you might not have been looking out for you all the
right,
time.
right,
And we got to do that first as individuals. It's not selfish, it's
right.
sustainable because that isn't sustainable long term.
And that's my whole
And for everybody to really eat long term at the table together, that focus has to be on you as an individual first, while you're with your friends and family
right.
and helping them prop themselves up too. But it can't just be
Can't be a one
let
street.
me give this, give it. Yeah, right, right. Interesting question. We're getting a lot of good, different vibes here. Let's see what else we got. What's the best advice you can give to new artists? What do you do to break through any writer's block you get? Oh, this is like 5 questions here. Let's start with that. What's the best advice you can give to new artists? So, I think times are changing every single day in terms of how to become a relevant artist, a relevant person on social media, all this stuff. When I started making music, the world was Facebook and YouTube and DatPiff and blogs, and that world doesn't exist at all anymore. And so I think it's hard for someone who's been doing it for 10 years to say with, you know, specificity, this is what you need to do to get successful as an artist.
Change it.
But the high level approach is always the same, whether it was my generation coming up in music or the generation before me or the generation 50 years ago. It's about being open-minded enough to just figure out where the opportunities are and connect the dots. You just got to try to think outside the box and be open-minded and say, yes, this is a good idea to try and go down this road. Yes, I'll try and email this person and meet with them, find, you know, a way to connect with somebody who's going to put me in a better situation, put me in front of someone that's going to make a difference. And that was the whole entire thing that I did. I was making music in my high school, seeing that blogs was a real good way to get exposure to your music online. It was this brand new thing that was just happening. So I had to figure out who's running the blogs, and it turned out that it was just a bunch of kids that were not much older than me. And then I had to friend request them on Facebook, build a rapport with them, and get them to start posting my music just by spamming them, essentially, you know? And again, these type of things aren't going to work today in this day and age, but that just shows you that you just kind of have to figure out some approach that you can do and just be open-minded enough to say, yeah, I'm going to try this and this could work. Because if you're sitting there thinking, no, that's not going to work, and you're finding every single reason not to do something, then you already lost the battle.
For sure.
And so it's really just a mentality thing at the end of the day, obviously. And I think so many people say that, like, you know, it's mentality shift, mental, whatever. And, you know, that's only, you know, so good to hear if you're seeking advice. Right. But yeah, is it cliche? Yes, but it really is true that you just have to try. You have to try different avenues to create opportunities out of nowhere. And when that opportunity comes up, and it inevitably will, if you're moving and trying to figure stuff out, because luck bets on people that are in motion.
Show up.
Just show up and jump on the opportunity.
Show.
And so I was emailing all these blogs, and finally they started posting a couple of my songs. So then I went even harder in the studio, making even more music, getting them to post it again. Figured out that this guy, Matty Trump, was producing all of Sam Adams' music in Boston, and they were making hits. You know, they had the #1 record on iTunes at the time. And so I said, I got to get with this Matty Trump dude. And so I emailed him, and I was like, listen, I'm making music. I'm in Boston. I want to connect with you, make some music. He was like, cool. It's $500 for a session. I was like, fine, I'll figure out how to, you know, save up the money to do a session with him, just because I know that if I get in the door, I can prove to him that I'm not just some kid that you can scam out of $500 to do a session. And so I got in there with him, made one song with him, ended up creating a partnership to produce a whole album off of that first meeting. And none of that would have happened if I was sitting there thinking, well, you know, he's not going to respond to me. I'm just some 17-year-old kid. Like, he's already working with Sammy. Like, why does he need another white rapper? Right. You know? And why does he,
now it's the relationship till today, you know?
Right. One of my best friends. And so I think the platforms change, the way to do it changes. Obviously, you know, everyone's talking about TikTok and all that shit in terms of how artists are breaking these days. And there are a lot more experts on the music industry that know 10 times more about the current stuff going on than I do, because I came from a different generation. But the mentality and the openness to putting yourself out there and trying to create opportunity, just set up meetings, do shit, you know, talk to people, just be out there, be moving, and good things will happen.
Reach out, show up.
No matter what it is, it's always going to be a learning experience, even if it was a bad thing. If you're doing something and you learn something from it, then that was worth your time that day, especially when you're starting out. Nothing's a bad opportunity when you're starting out.
Amen.
What do you think?
Amen. You hit it on the nose, dude. You hit it on the nose. Like, show up, man. Show up. That's like with my situation, oh, buddy's got a show in town. He's rocking with this artist who's got a little buzz. I'm not even really going to like create like a friendship, but like you show up, you be a good person, you be a good human, you're someone that people like to be around. Oh, come to the next show. Okay. Then you come to the next show. And then you're like, then you're on tour with them because they thought about you. Oh, this guy was great vibes. Then you're on tour with them, and then good things happen when you show up. So my whole thing is like, I was always like, show up to any situation that is in your avenue of music. You want to do music, show up to things that people that do music, because the more people in that industry could only help you.
100%. 100%. All right, let's see here. How do you combat lack of motivation when you're down and out? What helps you get back into the swing of things?
Well, if I know Cam Meekins,
what are you going to say?
If I know Cam Meekins, roll yourself a nice J ski, a glass of wine, and get back to it. No.
Yeah, that that can go a long way in moderation. But I think they're kind of two separate things, this question. I think that the motivation from a work standpoint is something, but I think just motivation in your life in general, that relates more to being down and out and what helps you kind of get back into the swing of things. And I think, we'd be lying if we didn't say that we all go through shit.
100%.
And I'm one of those people who I always feel like I'm not doing enough,
Right.
I've got all these different things going on, the music, the podcast, and I'm always like, I need to do more. And I think sometimes that's a negative in my life, because then I stretch myself too thin, and then I have too much stuff going on, and really I should just be in the studio and focus on that or whatever. But, I always find myself struggling with, I got to do more. And then that feels like a lack of motivation, because it's like, well, I have the time. I should be doing more or whatever. And I think that we all need to be a little less hard on ourselves, first and foremost. And remember that we got to take things step by step. And what's helped me get out of those patterns of just kind of the negative reinforcement of I got to do more, I'm not motivated enough or whatever, is just trying to break it down into its simplest form. And I feel like you probably relate to this, especially with what you're doing right now with the waking up and running. I never believed growing up that certain little things were indicative of something, but as I've gotten older, I've realized more and more that everything relates to everything. Yeah. And so if you're not taking care of your room, or you're not, picking up the dishes, or you're not doing that, then it trickles down into the work ethic with your work, or your, whatever you're doing creatively, if you're a musician or whatever, all of it connects. And so sometimes you got to break it down to its simplest form and say, all right, let me get my head clear. Let me get my space clear,
right.
And then move forward. But it's a slippery slope, because you can't just clean all day. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make you a successful person. But the point is that building more and more discipline in your life creates more success and gets you out of that rut and gets you more motivated. And so it's not just, oh, I can make myself feel accomplished by cleaning or doing this one little task, because I think there's a lot of making our brain think that we accomplished something by doing some trivial task that doesn't actually help us. So you can't just do that, but you do need to know how important discipline overall in every aspect of your life is, because it has that trickle down effect.
Right, with everything. The smallest things to whether it's with work or, like you're saying, clean your house. Like, those things really do help. Or like, discipline of making myself get up in the morning, run, clear your mind, And it really, really, really does help in the long run of being in that down and out place and being mentally in a hole. And but the thing is like, try to find, in those negative, dark, depressing times, as a lot of people go through, especially, in this day and age with like mental health and those type of things, like see and know that there's that light at the end of the tunnel. Like this time could suck, right now could be an awful time for any given person, but there is, and as cliche as it is, there's light at the end of the road. There is a better day that's coming. Shout out to Cam. There is going to be a better day. You know what I'm saying? Like it always will happen. It does happen. I mean, every one of us that has gone through shitty things has gotten to a place where I feel good now. At some point, you may be back in that shitty place now, but there is hope, and there's always hope. Just always have that hope and use that discipline to like really clear your mind and to focus on that little task. Okay, I got this done, and then it's like brick by brick. You get to that, you get above that clouded, down and out feeling that really like holds you down, and it weighs on you. So, it's not like that nobody goes through that. So just know we all do go through that. And, even like the happiest people that you see, I was talking to a buddy the other day. He's like, man, like this is getting hard. I'm like, hey man, he's like, how do people do it that make it seem like it's so easy in his situation? Right. I'm like, dude, don't let the other people, like whatever somebody's posting on Instagram or whatever, like my life's perfect, because nobody's is. Nobody's life is perfect. Anything you see posted is that the highlight reel of their life. It's not the real thing. So don't get down on yourself, like looking to other people like, oh man, how are they so happy? Or how is this? Just look at yourself, look at your surroundings. Like Cam said, man, like sometimes, there's a clutter all around you, and that's holding you down. That's like making you, frustrated or anxious. And like, just clearing that clutter, that actual physical clutter in your surroundings could help that clutter in your brain get you out of that negative place, and to take that step forward in whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish or achieve something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that you got to remember, right? Like you've gotten through everything else
right
in your life. You're going to get through this thing.
Yeah. You're still here.
You're still here. The hardest things you've faced in your life, you've gotten out on the other side of it. This thing, you're going to get out on the other side of too. But yeah, that's just been my thing that I've been trying to implement into my life a lot, because, I could talk about it all day, but at the end of the day, it's still something that I'm trying to figure out, is that discipline aspect on another level, to really be like, performing at the top level. It's got to be that whole approach.
Right.
Everything's got to match. And it can get real cyclical though, like the whole concept of, all right, well, let me clean stuff up, let me get my life in order, and then let it all get messy again. And I'm not just talking about like actual messes, but metaphorically, let me get my shit together, and then it all gets messy again, and then I get it together again, and then it gets messy again. And so that cycle is not getting you anywhere, but getting it together and keeping it together and keeping that discipline
right
is the hardest thing. But we all have the capacity to do it. And I think if you're listening to a podcast like this one right now, then you are a person who's trying to do more of that in your life. Because I put on podcasts, and you're listening to that book right now when you go on that run to better your current situation. You're searching for that thing to give you that motivation. And so you're already on your way. You're already a person who said, today I'm going to do something for myself that is going to benefit me. And I'm not trying to talk up what we're doing here like this is like the holy grail. It's not. We're just two guys trying to talk shit. But when you listen to something that's of substance and you're trying to get something out of it, you're already on your way to doing something.
Yeah.
And so keep going, you know? You're motivated. Keep going.
Yeah, you have the itch already. You're trying to find it. So that's the first step. You want to, you know?
I got one on Instagram here. Let me pull it up. Here's a good one for both of us. Dinner party, 4 guests, past or present. Who are you choosing? I'll let you go first on that one, Bllaine.
4 guest dinner party?
Yeah, the 4 guests is kind of a lot. So, you know, we'll see where we go. But let's do it. Let's try and pick 4.
Are they saying like dead or alive?
Dead or alive? Yeah, I think. Past or present.
This is tough. There's so many ways you can go. You know, there's like
there's a lot of ways you can answer this.
a lot of political correctness, and you know what I'm saying?
Right.
4 guests at a dinner party. I only get 4. Wow. Well, this is deep. You know? I mean, I feel like I got to be wholesome with this one, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like I got to be wholesome. I got to bring the boys. You know what I'm saying? If it's like the last dinner that I could ever have or something like that, like.
Well, let me see what it said.
Give me more context.
It really just said dinner party, 4 guests, past or present. Who are you choosing?
Wow.
So it's not
Okay.
it's not the Last Supper. It's not your last dinner ever.
Okay.
But
well,
it's just
I'm gonna do this like I would say like inspirational wise, right? So if I could have 4 inspirational people at this dinner with me that I want to pick their brain, I'm gonna have past or present. I'm gonna have Tupac be there. I really want to know. I really want to know.
That'd be
what
good
he's
conversation.
Like. Yeah, I want to pick his brain, really know what he's like, and just get to know Tupac at a dinner. It'd be sick. Tupac. Wow, this is deep. Man, Tupac. I see. I want to say, fuck. I kind of want Elon Musk to be there. I want to.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah.
I want to like. I would want to spark that relationship with Elon Musk and become boys with Elon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's just like kind of like this guy that we're gonna remember for forever. You know.
He's the Ben Franklin of our time.
Exactly. So I think he would be a great one. Another one, dude, I'm a big fan. Drake. I would want Drake to be there.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's a curveball.
Yeah, I like that though.
I think he's somebody that is doing everything right in our line of music, right? And he is the pinnacle. He is the top of that's alive and that's now, and the guy can't miss. And I'm just like, creating that relationship would be, I think, super valuable. And who else?
Last one.
Wow. So I got Elon, Tupac, and Drake at the table. This is interesting. This is an interesting dinner.
Yeah, you got to add somebody who kind of rounds it out a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah, no, I do. I really do. Who Oh, this is gonna hurt. I just can't think of somebody. Who could round this out? Who can make this? I'm trying to think of somebody that's really important right now. I mean, at this point in time, but I just feel like he'd be super quiet because he's just about no bullshit, would be my dog David Goggins, dude.
Wow. You're really about the David Goggins life right
I
now.
would want Goggins to be. I want to pick his brain too, dude.
That's how you know you really like a book.
Yo.
You're like, I gotta have him at the last dinner.
Yo.
So we got David Goggins, Drake, Tupac, and Elon Musk. That's good, man. Oh man,
That rounded it out. Those are just
that would just be a nuts conversation. There's a lot of big personalities.
right. Oh my god. Okay, so who'd be at your table?
Man, that's tough. I'll probably say, I'm gonna say Kanye, because I think that it would just be a riveting conversation. I think he's, the energy being around that would just be really interesting. And I'll say Obama.
Oh, he was on my list, but I was just like, man, the guy.
Yeah, I just think he's so cool, and I think he like kind of represents kind of our generation, like not our generation, but like our time period, like this modern era.
Great.
And I think he's probably got such crazy stories in terms of shit that he knows about that we don't, geopolitically and just around the world, things that, and if like maybe we could just ask him some top secret questions, and like I feel like if this kind of dinner was happening, we'd pick up some game, because I think Obama would be just as stoked to have dinner with some 200-year-old person or whatever.
I almost want to uninvite David.
He's pissed.
No, Goggins, you're in.
I'll take some historic people too. So we got Obama, we got Kanye. They don't get along, so that might be tough.
Right.
I guess I'll say like, I don't know, FDR.
Wow.
I don't know that, I'm just trying to think of somebody from back in the day that would be really interesting.
So you got two presidents and
two presidents. Well, because the presidents, they just are gonna know a lot of shit.
I those are two respectable, knowledgeable.
But then Kanye's just the wild card, kind of from an entertainment value standpoint.
That would get the people going.
And I think he would have some interesting questions too.
Right.
And he'd be very straightforward about it. And I don't know. I don't like the FDR answer, but I'm just gonna stick with it for the sake of going with the flow here. Right. And Jesus Christ, the man himself.
Could you imagine? That is probably wow.
Like the actual guy.
The guy. I mean, those are some questions I want to know.
Yeah. Facts. But yeah, I think that would be my 4. Right there. That'd be my pickup basketball team. Me, Jesus Christ, Obama, FDR, and Kanye.
All fitted and Yeezy.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ looks at Kanye. You stole my whole swag, dude. What are you doing?
Jesus got the sandals on. He's like, I don't know. I can't do this. Speaking of Jesus Christ, we got a good question here. I want to know about your deepest questions on reality. Is this a simulation? Are you Christian? Talk about all this fascinating real shit.
Holy Toledo.
Questions from Jonah. I should have been shouting out the people who asked the questions, so I'm sorry about that. If you asked a question and I answered it on the podcast, thanks so much. I appreciate you more than you know. I appreciate all you guys more than you know. This whole podcast thing has just been awesome to get going, because it feels like this new project that I'm starting from scratch, and I'm still trying to get my chops in. And it reminds me of when I first started making music, and I just wanted to go into the studio every single day and try and get better and figure out what to do. And that's how I feel about the podcast. Every time that I get on the mic in this way now, I'm trying to just figure out how to get better. And so for the people who are watching and listening from the ground floor, I mean, that's like the most amazing thing in the world to me. So I appreciate all you guys for real. So thanks for asking these questions. Thanks for tuning in to this special podcast episode with my guy Bllaine.
But just know none of it's
Meekins
real.
Show.
None of it's real. We're in a simulation.
Because we're in a simulation.
And life isn't life.
Yeah, I got some good thoughts on this, but real quick, Bllaine, are we in a simulation, or what's your take on this?
I think that we are not in a simulation. I don't think that it's like we're some. But what's the thought? What is the thought of being in a simulation? Is it like?
Well, that's the whole point. Is that the whole entire question is subjective, because what is a simulation? What's the difference, right?
So
if we
go ahead.
If we were computer simulations, if we can feel and think, and we feel like we have free thought and free will, whether we're computer generated or not, what's the difference? And then also, what's the definition of computer generated once you get to like a real deep level?
Right.
Like on a multi-universe level, if there's some higher being above us that created this world, this universe that we're in, that created the Big Bang, what our understanding of what computers and technology is so minuscule compared to whatever technology they have. So what is a simulation versus, reality? Because we don't even know the half of what's going on the other side of that.
Right. It's like this whole situation. I'm just gonna call what we're in is a situation. It's not a simulation.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
We are balls of like energy living in like a sack of skin and blood that was created somehow from something else. Like, how did we get here? Who knows? And you could do all this research and all this scientific data, but like, who created scientific data? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many questions behind all of that. Like, who says what they're saying is real? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Like,
right.
Like who created the universe? Because there's all these things and facts that humans like to say that this is what happened, but how are we the ones to say that that's how it happened? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, who really knows? So like this.
Well, the only thing that we can really prove is our own consciousness.
Right. Yeah. I hear, I see, I feel, I taste. Like, there's something inside of me that controls this whole body. There's some type of feeling that's like, I don't know if it's like a ball of energy, like, when they say you pass away, like your soul, it's your soul. It's your spirit. There is a spirit inside of me that makes my whole being be a human. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There is something inside of me, a spirit that makes me work and makes me go and makes me have feelings. It makes me have thoughts. It's, it goes 24/7, 365 days every single year, and it's always on until it's off. And where does that go once it's off? Who knows? You'll never know until you're there, right? And if my loved ones that are there, save me a place where you're at, because one day we're all gonna be there.
Because I'm trying to pull up.
I'm trying to pull up. I'm trying to be with you guys once again.
Right. Yeah.
And
I
was just gonna say, I hope, and in my mind, there is a greater being that created this, because what is it all for and what is it all about? It gives me hope, and it gives me a sense of drive, and it makes me compassionate, and it makes me feel that somebody created this, God, whatever that God is. I don't ever like to say I'm Christian, I'm Catholic, I'm Mormon, I'm Muslim. I don't really identify with any religion, but I think there are great philosophies and things that come from all religion. And
yeah, Yeah, religion is super interesting. 'Cause I think, religion in a lot of ways is this sociological thing that we have created as humans. But when you look at the universe and the idea of a higher power and things beyond our understanding, the more you get into the science and the more we figure out, the more likely it is that that type of thing does exist. Because how else can you explain certain things?
Right. And like something
Right.
that really is like the people that say like, oh well, we are like the evolutionists, right? That's the
Right.
correct term, right? People say
Yeah.
that like, we come from evolution of whatever, you know, apes or monkeys into humans and whatever, we came from the ocean. And but it's like, who put that germ or that little speck of whatever it was there before there was a human, or before there was, uh whatever that we evolved
Yeah.
from?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who put that there? What put that there? What
Right.
started it? What made the earth? What made the universe? Like, this is something that I used to always think about back when I was burning. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just sit there and you have these crazy
No,
thoughts, and it's
100%.
like,
Well, that's the thing is like, and if you believe, and I think there's a lot of great evidence to believe that, the Big Bang is a really, fundamental theory of the universe, and that formed the universe and shot all these particles into,
but what did that?
our
You know?
world, our universe, and then things started to collide with each other and build more particles and more, things got created, and all of a sudden we had planets, and now we're here. It makes sense when you really get down into the science. But to your point, what about before that? What caused the Big Bang to occur, and how much deeper can you go?
To be and to
And
go past that,
we
right? Like,
right, so like that's my whole point is like the more you start to understand about the deepest physics of our universe, the more it makes sense that there are these higher forces at play, and there is the potential for multiple universes, or for this to be some form of creation, some form of like simulation. So all these different theories of, are we in a simulation? Like, is it this religion or that religion? It's like, none of us have figured out the answer to that, but there is something there because we're here in this universe, and there's all of these real odd things, and there's a lot going on metaphysically that we don't understand,
right.
that maybe in our lifetime we'll start to understand a little bit more. But it all points to there's got to be a lot more to the whole structure of the universe than we understand, and that is coming from somewhere, and that thing could be in the form of a god type of figure, or something different than that. But it's a really mind-boggling thing when you start to kind of go down that rabbit hole. But I think it's two things. It's the question of the science of the universe and physics and all that stuff, which is really interesting. But then there's the question of faith and belief and what that can do for you on a day-to-day level. And so that's where I have, my own feelings about that, because I think that faith and belief, whether that's through one religion or another, or being spiritual, or, all this type of stuff, is super, super beneficial to our day-to-day life as individuals, because it gives us answers to things that we don't have the answer to, and it also gives us the ability to not need specific answers, because we have faith. We have faith that these things are what they are,
and out of our hands,
and that can stop you from being miserable
and anxious, and like, what if, and what's that?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of things that are wrong with certain religions, because religion can become an organization that can make money and have power and influence. And so any system like that is always going to be corrupt. So that aspect of what we call religion is obviously not rooted in spirituality. But the idea of the actual story of someone like Jesus Christ and the lessons that we learn from telling that story or hearing about things that happened and those big themes that we get from hearing those stories of, do to your neighbor what you want done to you and all this
They're
type
all
of stuff.
things that will guide you to being a good person, most of the stories. And that's kind of what
Right.
the underlying thing that I've realized about religions is like all these stories and rules and things that apply to each and every other religion is just a navigating tool to like not being a bad person is what it's trying to do.
Well, and it's trying to help you like make sense of the world around you and give you some framework of existence and make you comfortable with that existence. And that can be really beneficial to your overall well-being. Right. But religion as an organization is just rife with corruption and all these type of things. So that's where it gets really complicated because there's so much benefit to the individual when you have faith. And so personally, I do believe, and for me, because it was the way that I was exposed to it, for me, it's about following that story of Jesus, the person, and getting inspired by that person and his life and those stories that can help you make sense of the world and give you some framework of how you want to be and what's important. And even just the idea of living for something larger than you and not backing down and, dying for a cause that you believe in is just this incredible, powerful story that can be so beneficial. And so for me, because that was the way that I was kind of exposed to the idea of spirituality, I subscribed to that idea of that story is so impactful to me. But I don't support any religious organization.
Right. And that's one thing I want to like put on record, like these different religions and people that believe in one or the other, let's stop creating division amongst each other because we believe one certain thing or one other thing, like let's show respect. Okay, you believe that? Great. Like, I'd like to learn more. Oh, you believe this? Great. I would like to hear more. And not create this division that you see.
Yeah, I'm right.
You see
you're
tend
wrong.
to happen all the time. Like, oh no, this is the right way to be. This is the true story. This is what happened. Like, whatever drives you to like I'm saying, be better, make yourself have a purpose in life, to be, follow a path of being a good human and show empathy for others and have feelings, that are positive. Great. Follow that path, follow that religion and do that. But don't, let's get away from creating this division because one person believes in Allah and the other person believes in Jesus Christ.
Well, and that's where the organization aspect comes into it. Is that you create these groups that then want to fight on those beliefs, and the reality is that it's just about what you were exposed to. Like depending on where you were born or what situation you were in, you get exposed to the pathway to spirituality through one religion or another, and that's just the facts. And you can debate it all you want, but that is absolutely the truth. But that being said, there is so much power to having faith as an individual and being spiritual because it gives you so much guidance,
meaning,
and and just can really do a lot for your own psychology. And so that's really the most, it's one of my most, the things I'm most interested about, is because I think there's so much benefit to the individual having a relationship with what they feel is God. Right? And for me, what I feel is God is that story of Jesus and like the person, and thinking about those lessons and stuff like that. But that's just for me, what I just kind of got into. But it could be something else for someone else. It could be a different religion. It could be doing yoga. It could be whatever the fuck they're doing. But the individual having that relationship with spirituality is so beneficial. I wish we would all promote that more than we would promote these institutions.
Like, come to my team. Like, no.
Right. Because that's how you create more and more division. And that's not what being spiritual is. Spirituality is for you, the individual, to have a connection with the greater, deeper universe and beyond. It's about you, the individual, not let's all gang up together and think about these ideas. I don't know. That's my take on it.
That's a hot take.
That's what we try and do. Trying to have a lot of hot takes. I'm trying to just really have fun. Bring you on the show, talk shit. That's just my goal for 2021.
Just let it all out there, man. Just really tap into, your beliefs and who you are, and not persuade someone to think one way or the other. It's just kind of an open conversation for anybody to listen, to hear, to have a conversation, reach out. You're letting people, ask questions and have their takes in the comments, and so
exactly,
it's just an open dialect, and it's a safe space.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what people think about this episode, about the idea of kind of doing more of these kind of Q&As and individual episodes and stuff. I'm always going to have the guests and do all that stuff, but trying to figure out just, fun ways to use this platform and just keep pushing. So I appreciate you coming on and being, part of that whole process. And we're going to do this a lot more, but
hey,
my man,
it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for having me a part of it. Thank you for, being the guy. Had to get the kids down to get this in,
I know we got the late night sessions going, getting real, philosophical on the late night podcast. That's how we do it. And you got Tupac behind you, the guy at your dinner.
There he is.
But yeah, my man Bllaine, check him out. YouTube, social media, Twitter, Instagram, @Bllaine. We out of here. Peace.